And to give you an idea of what some others would do, they couldn't buy sugar and coffee and rice and things only in barrels. And they had to send to Wilkesboro. Wilkesboro was the closest place. Later they could get things at Troutdale, but not during that time. Anyway, Grandpa, in his store, he had them in the middle. He had a big barrel. It would have coffee in it, and another in sugar, and another rice. And when he'd get in some, he'd fill his barrels off. Kept man, he finally got to knowing it was going too fast. He didn't know what was going with it. And it went on, he got down toward the bottom before he filled it up, and he found out they had crawled. Now these were not bushwhackers, they were plain old roads, right here in Ashe County. They had got under the store, they had marked the place where it would be, and they had got under the store, and they had them a sheet under there, and I guess three. They bored holes, say, in the rice barrel, and they let down a bunch of rice and got it up, and they stuck a plug in that hole. And he hadn't been digging deep enough in the barrel to find it out. And then they'd come over here and they'd get in the coffee barrel, and it had a plug in the bottom of it. And then over there to the sugar. He caught them that way. I mean, he found out what was a-going with his sugar and rice and coffee.
For goodness.
And that happened now right down here where Bernard Miller lives.
Now, did he find out who was doing it?
Yes, he pretty well knew. And they killed, and it was bad. They killed some of them.
They did.
Nona, Neil Austin's daddy killed the ringleader. They had put out a reward. I forget what it was, $100 or $200 to take him. He was an Eller. Now I told you I was bad blood. He was an Eller. They had formed a roguish band. They was two Ellers, and there was five of them. I forget. I know of two Ellers, and they was both killed. But anyway, they put out a reward for Linville. He was the ringleader.
Linville Eller.
Linville Eller, and he was a dangerous man. They lived down in here, the Deep Ford country. And it was either $100 or $200 if somebody could take him, capture him. Well, John Neal, you knew her, Nona's daddy, he didn't want to kill him, but he thought he could take him. He thought he could capture him and get that money. And he made a date with him, and then he'd go out down in there, and they'd fund a day or two. And he went, and old Mr., I don't know whether you ever knew that old Mr. Ed Johnson, his widow used to live in Jefferson up there. He just had one eye. He was smart, but he was with John Neal, and he had steel notes, but he didn't have a gun. And John Neal had a good gun. And so they hunted together, I think about a couple of days, and they was at a little old, they called it a distillery. It was a little old building, and it had a little old window in the back of it where bad things had been happening. Anyway, right around there, John thought he saw his chance to capture Linville, and he called on him. He said, "You're under arrest." Well, Linville had a big pistol, and dangerous with it. And John run right up and got hold of him and got so close to him, and Paul said that Linville had such long arms. He started to get his pistol out of the holder, and some way the sight hung, and he kept jerking, and John saw he wouldn't give up. He wouldn't give up, and John wasn't powerful enough a man to throw him. And he shot him through the right arm, broke that arm, thought he'd had it. And Paul said that he just changed hands, and here come that left hand. And he was just, John was so close to him, he couldn't hardly get to where he wanted to him. And John said it was kill or be killed. And he shot him right in there. And Lynn told him, he said, John, don't shoot me no more, you kill me now. He just fell back, and it burned a little patch on his shirt tail. But they was a gang of robbers. They'd rob Grandpa's store. They'd go down on Grassy Creek, and they'd go over in Virginia. They went over in Tennessee, and into Watauga.
Were they robbing to sell it, or robbing to eat?
Well, both, I guess. Paul went to the funeral of Lynn Eller, and he said he knew he had on a suit of clothes that had come the wrong way.
Is that?
Yeah, Lord, they took anything that they could get their hands on and won. Yeah, oh, they were dangerous. And
that was an aftermath of the Civil War, wasn't it?
Yes, that was after. And Grandpa had to watch the store. He'd go over there and sleep. He'd take a big canoe and cross the river. It was bigger then than it is now. He'd either sleep in the store, or he'd send my daddy and Uncle Doll Eller. Uncle Doll was a big boy, and Pa wasn't married then. When they'd hunt for him, that was after he and my mother were married, and they were living here, and she'd be so uneasy of a night when Pa'd be out. They hunted for them and tried to get them. They were just rovers, and people were afraid of them. So they threatened. They said, some night when old Jim Eller's crossing that river, we'll sink him in that deep hole. There's a cliff right over there. And he'd send Pa and Uncle Doll to sleep in the store, just sort of for protection.
Yeah, I had to, didn't I?
Had to.
And as a matter of, it got to where it was a matter of your life or theirs.
That's right.
It's a matter of whether you could eat and feed your family or feed the road.
No, that's exactly right. And I don't think John Neal ever saw a peaceful minute after that, hardly. He finally died at TB.
Is that right?
Yeah. He was a good man, and he wanted to rid the country, help rid the country of such people.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to kill him. But he did. And then there was another one. After this happened, they had stole some more, and one of them, Henry Eller, he had gone to bed, and they knew that he was at home in the bed, and they had surrounded the house, and there was a Macmillan man at one door. I think the room had two doors, one on either side, and there's a man at each door, and he found out some way that there was somebody there, and he jumped out of the bed just in his underwear, whatever it was, and ran out, and he knocked that man as he ran down. He was a Macmillan, and he just whirled up on his all fours, and he shot him. He didn't die right then, but he died in a few days. Macmillan killed Eller, the other Eller. That began to break it up. Those two men had to be killed, looked like, to break it up. Yeah. Well, they were mighty worse than the bushwhackers. They were just, and that was after the war. That was after Grandpa come over here.
They took what they wanted.
Yes, sir, and almost bragged about it.
Is that right?
Yeah.